I know you probably think it's nothing to do with business. Whole digital sovereignty movement is about organizations, governments moving to European or sovereign solutions. But what about small businesses? Well, here is the thing. Digital sovereignty applies to small businesses as well. And it's not just about cost optimization, saving on your stack. It's also about simplicity. It's also about completely different customer service, because so many times I'm annoyed by the treatment I get from some of the big players where you're trying to speak with a human and then you speak with chatbots, you speak with some automated systems, and you don't get any solution whatsoever. And you are in the middle of doing things for your business and you just hit the wall. So today we're going to interview our guest, Tracy Stewart, and she's going to tell us about her transformation in her business from big tech to sovereign solutions. This is Beyond Big Tech, a founder journey to digital sovereignty. My name is Wojtek.
My name is Tom.
And together with Tom, we are on a journey to find the best sovereign solutions for your business so your business is far more effective. But before we move on to the interview, I wanted to invite Tom to share some news. So Tom, over to you, my friend.
So the news which basically brought my attention is Microsoft confirms that Windows GDID, which is a global device identifier, basically cannot be disabled, and it's popped out in FBI case finding that they managed to find a bad guy who basically used the Windows machine to do some criminal stuff. The troubling part from point of view of IT and technology and obviously independence is there is no way for us to basically disable that. Apple devices, they got some kind of features, the ID, they can be disabled or reset. Same with Android, but Windows obviously doesn't. So that brings a lot of implications because it can be tracked through this kind of ID and assigned. Look on Facebook, the size of Facebook, Google, and alike, yes, Microsoft. Lots of these businesses, they become so large because they have access to our data. And that data include information which we share sometimes voluntarily, like your name, your surname, where you live, date of birth, what machine you use, what operating system you use, what applications you use, and so on. And stuff like that can really have an impact. If you do it at a large scale, suddenly this is a treasure trove for marketing agencies. And obviously Google and Facebook, they are one of the largest advertising agencies out there. So what happens is that this kind of information can be shared and user doesn't have any impact, what's going on. So that's I thought is very important to bring this to discussion.
And how does this impact the kind of small businesses from your point of view?
Imagine you have a person following you every step you go and keep picking on what you do and why you do. They can make a better product, which is beneficial. But on the other hand, because those big businesses can invest so much money that, for example, if we have a smaller business that wants to compete with such a large organization, they can't because they have no resources to invest so much money and increase the quality of their product, because the amount of money a big business can spend on learning about you can be the whole revenue of the small business for years to come. So the level playing field basically disappears completely. So if you have a small business that wants to build, let's say, equivalent to Microsoft Office, yes, you will struggle because Microsoft will have so much data about you and they see what users are using, which features and so on. You, as a smaller provider, you can't match that.
And there is also a bigger risk here. When you are a small, innovative business, you found some unique solution and big tech can find out about what you're building and maybe they can get your idea on the market much quicker than you. So there are a lot of other implications. So this is a big one. Thank you so much for sharing this, Tom. So what do you think? Shall we crack on and invite our guest on stage and share her story? What do you think, Tom? Shall we do it now?
I think that's a good idea. Tracy, welcome to our podcast. Thank you for joining us. You mentioned in your comment that you decided to move to independent, like break with the big tech. Would you mind to tell us a little bit more about you, who you are, about your business, so people can relate, they can understand where you're coming from, and they can hopefully follow your path and save some money as well in the process?
Thank you both for the invitation. I'm delighted to be able to have a conversation about this because I think it's really important. I run Freshly Press and I work as a book coach and a ghostwriter. So I help people get books out, develop their ideas into books, to help them grow their businesses and to help them get their ideas out of their heads and words onto the page. And I also write fiction myself. I'm based in France and I work with clients all over the world. People often find me when they've got an idea that they've had for a while and they've got stuck being able to write their book. So essentially, I help them see the shape of it and help them get it published. And I call that work really being a story architect. But equally, I'm a solo entrepreneur. I work with other organizations on a freelance basis, but I run my own business and I run my own tech solutions.
Oh, fantastic. Now, could you tell us a bit more? What did you use before you moved to the independent? What have you actually been using?
All the classics that we kind of comfortably tumble into. So Google, Microsoft, Calendly, all of those traditional types of big tech that we find easy because everybody else uses them. And we can just essentially slide our businesses into it.
And what was for you the triggering factor? Why did you consider it?
Well, essentially, I think it's something that's been troubling me for a long time. So for me, it wasn't sort of one big dramatic moment, but it was a question that I've been avoiding, I think, probably for a while. Kind of where does all this information actually live? Because people hand me things that they don't hand anyone else, particularly when they're writing memoir. I've got a lot of personal information that I'm working with. Business people are giving me their real deep thought processes. So essentially, when I'm working on first draft and I'm doing research on material that they're providing, that's been sitting in Google Workspace on a Google Drive or on a Microsoft equivalent. I got really concerned when I realized that honestly, at any point, they could just be accessed under the US law. And I got really uncomfortable about that. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it.
Okay.
So it was a Cloud Act realization, I think.
I see. And so looking at your journey, are you still in the process of moving or you completely transitioned to sovereign solutions?
I've effectively completely transitioned to sovereign solutions for a replacement for Google Workspace as far as possible. Unfortunately, Microsoft rests the industry standard for publishing. So I literally only translate final material into it. But everything else, I've got sovereign solutions for meeting scheduling, for photo storage, for all of the other types of services that any entrepreneur would use.
And what are the main outcomes? Well, we'll be obviously going into the details of some of the solutions that you use, but what are the main outcomes? We talked about the whole kind of data security and the Cloud Act part. What about the other things that you found? What are the main outcomes of the whole transition?
Oh, for me, multiple and some that I didn't anticipate at all. So financially, I've saved a lot, around 145 euros a month, which for a small business is significant. I've been able to condense a lot of services under one roof. So, it means I don't have multiple logins. I don't have multiple apps that I need to manage and run. And also, I've actually been able to find real human beings, which comes back to the point you were talking about originally, Wojtek. That, it's working with some of the big tech organizations. If you get to speak to a human, then it's almost miraculous. So I think probably one of the biggest things for me was actually being able to find proper support.
So it's so much more than just data security, the cost optimization. And how much have you saved in total per month?
Per month, 145 euros so far.
Is that like percentage-wise? What would that be equivalent? 10%, 50%?
50%.
50? Oh, wow. That is a lot. Question which I suspect a lot of people will have on their mind is, how comfortable are you basically like, because for a lot of people, it's this part like, I need to switch. I need to make this big leap of a jump. Yes. It's like, were you worried that, oh my goodness, like I will move my business and then everything will end. I can't contact people. I can't do anything. Or was that like, were you afraid of that? And how did it come out?
I was terrified, absolutely terrified, because if I'm going down this path and everyone else is still essentially going down the big superhighway of tech, I'm not a tech person. I know my way around, but I don't understand all the logistics of how it all connects together. So essentially what I did was I stress tested everything for 3 months. I
Okay.
ran things on a parallel system and made sure that I could connect with clients, connect with suppliers. I tested with a couple of trusted clients the calendar system, for example, the way in which I was going to replace Workspace with the Infomaniak system that I've used. I stress tested that, stressed everything for 3 months solid.
That's really, really brave. People don't like take risk, yes, but they're saying the smart entrepreneurs, they take the calculated risk because it's way less downside than actually staying on what you do. So basically staying where you are, it could be way more dangerous. So well done on that.
Thank you. And I think one of the things that helped me finally be brave enough to press that button that says cancel Google Workspace was the fact that I've been able to talk to people within the businesses that I was looking to transition to. And also that I've been able to work with them to solve a couple of problems that I couldn't see a way around. I was literally able to pick up a phone or to send a direct email or direct message and have people working, the developers, the people delivering these new services, help them understand the problem I was experiencing. And they were making changes that overnight or within a couple of days to something that I stress tested that, didn't quite work. So it's been exciting for me as well to be able to be part of that process to help bring these new solutions to, to develop the services that they're offering.
Thank you so much for sharing this.
Yeah,
What I
welcome.
liked about this is that you started the whole conversation from the main reason why you're doing it. And it was for the love and care for your clients, for their data, for their story. So you created a safer environment. I'm not an expert, so Tom, probably you can jump in with some kind of advice. Would you comment on the way Tracy did it?
So first of all, Tracy, what I believe Tracy did super well, and I strongly advocate that, she ran the system in parallel. Because true, sometimes in every migration, there are situations where you have no clear answer, yes? Until you try, you don't know, yes? Because things might fail, might not work as expected, and there could be a lot of unforeseen problems. The approach, like breaking system to the smallest units, creating and testing it, it's a very, very prudent approach. I recommend that a lot. So if you remember on the previous episode, you asked me, like, how would you move the team from, let's say, Windows, Mac based to Linux? And again, same principle. So basically break it into the smaller parts and try to pick the right people to run a test and see whether the system works. What Tracy did is it's a very good approach. So you don't break everything and then you hope for the best, but you actually test and see whether that works, and you can then make changes. Tracy, I have another question for you because I suspect a lot of people will ask for the same. Okay, I move everything to the new system, and what if I'm in trouble? Something doesn't work. How do you deal with the support? Like, because not every IT support might be happy. I know supports, let's say, if you ask MSP, yes, and say, would you support Linux? A lot of them will say like, no, really. So how do you deal with this?
I was really concerned about it, I have to say. So I tested I tested the support as part of the stress testing. So not just operationally, can I get my emails? Can I get my calendar bookings? I actually went to them with problems. I didn't sit there and think, oh, okay, so maybe it just doesn't work like this.
Uh-huh.
I actually went back to them. One of them offers a full telephone service, one of them direct, and it really is quick, responsive email and chat, all with humans. And so I tested that as well, because I completely agree. People can talk a good talk. Yes, sales pages can say, we can replace Google, we can replace this, we can help you do X, Y, Z. But unless genuinely they can solve a problem quickly, it's not going to help. So I went to them with genuine concerns, genuine problems, and I worked through them with them. They didn't just run off and do something and say, oh, okay, we fixed this. They actually came back and said, okay, let me understand the problem better. We had a conversation, and then they went away and did what was necessary. And there were a couple of things that still are not quite as I expected, but they're not quite as I expected in a way that I can now manage them. So it's give and take. There is no perfect solution. And I think it's important for people to understand that. But I certainly feel I've got probably 95% of what I wanted and expected I've got. And the other is it will come.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I wanted to ask you about one particular solution I've been testing for over 5 months now, and I found it extremely good. It's Infomaniak, the whole K suite with K email, with K chat, the whole kind of potential replacement for Google Workspace or the Microsoft Office. Tell us about this one. How did you find the Infomaniak? It's the Swiss solution with sovereign kind of solution when it comes to the data as well. So how did you find this one?
Somebody I've worked with previously just happened to mention that they went on a meeting, which was through K-Meet, because they've got separate elements that cover all of the elements that you have normally in Google Workspace. So I thought, well, that kind of sounds interesting. Did a bit of research and looked at what they offered and how they presented themselves, and the fact that they're the ones who offer human contact at the end of the day. And I just did my due diligence on them and gave them a try. And I moved to them now 3 weeks ago full time. And I have not had any issues. It was a really smooth transition. They helped every step of the way. And the other thing that I think was the final push for me for them was that they transitioned themselves into a foundation in the early part of June, which means that there's no venture capital pressure. There's no external pressure. They run on an equitable basis. They reinvest profit into the business. And there's no one there who can say, okay, this is the direction we're going in, that we're not going to allow this, we are going to allow that. It's very much built on equitable foundation principles.
Well, what I found about this is it's got everything you need, right?
Yeah.
Because you have the storage, you have all the office equivalents. Out of all the features with Infomaniac, which one is your favorite one that it puts smile on your face when you open the software? You're kind of like, yeah, I love this.
I really love the K drive, how the K drive works, the storage solution, and the way in which that really neatly now connects. It's an ongoing developmental process for them, but it connects really smoothly to all of the other parts of the K-Meet solution. And also they have an equivalent to WeTransfer within the K Suite. So again, being able to keep the transfers within that setup and not have to go to WeTransfer to share big stock, and the way in which I can share my folders really securely. The reason why I wanted to make the transition for protection of my clients' information, everything is just like that. So I really love K Drive, and I'm beginning to love K Meet. It took a little while, it's not entirely perfect, but I found a solution. I work on Apple, so whether this would work on a Microsoft or Android solution, I don't know. But I use BB Recorder, which then enables me to deal with the meeting notes issue. It's something that's native, you put onto your MacBook, and it keeps it there. It doesn't go to the cloud. It doesn't go outside of my little environment.
Thank you so much for sharing. And with K-Drive, what I like about it as well is I remember when I was so frustrated on many occasions with OneDrive or, for example, the Google Drive. Sometimes it takes ages to upload things. I remember when I was uploading the photography files from the photography session, about 50 files and pretty heavy ones. And then it stopped in the middle, and then I didn't know which one were actually uploaded, which not. So when I tested the K-Drive, I was like, wow, this is actually working and it's safe. So I understand where you're coming from when it comes to K-Drive. And thank you so much for sharing. Tom, I'm sure you got another one.
So if our listeners go and they're like, oh yeah, I like this, it sounds interesting, what would be the first step you would recommend to do? How would you do it?
I'd probably still take exactly the same solution, which was not techie at all. I literally got a big sheet of A3 paper and I drew out the tech solution that I've got currently. And then I mapped across physically, drew lines, scribbled on a piece of paper. I really needed to see what it could look like and be able to clearly see the gaps. If I ended up with 3 possible solutions for certain things, that meant it gave me the route map to test those out individually, to research them. So definitely take time. We've been with Google, Microsoft for so long. An extra month is not going to end the world. It's not going to change things. So take your time and build it out in a way that feels right. I followed my gut as well. There were certain organizations I looked at that talked a good talk, but fundamentally weren't delivering at the end of the day. So don't be afraid to walk away from something that you were really hopeful about. Take your time to build it. Probably 3, 4 different types of replacements, CRM and meeting and project management type applications. But I was really, really hopeful, and I liked the people who were organizing it. I liked the way they put together. But fundamentally, there was always something that just didn't click. You're not wasting time by finding out that something doesn't work. You're saving time in the long run.
Tracy, thank you so much for your time, for sharing all these incredible tips on your transition. How can we get contact with you if there are people who want to find out about your business or they want to find out about transition? Maybe they have some questions. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'm Tracy Stewart, ghostwriter on LinkedIn. My website is freshlypressed.com. Over the next few days, I'm going to be uploading an article about the process I went through and the impact that it had on my business.
And as well, if you wouldn't mind, I suspect a lot of people will be interested if you share what kind of solutions you use. So to give people an idea, what did you try and what works for you? So this way, basically, we can hopefully create a database of solutions people can refer and say like, oh, somebody test that and they got a good opinion about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I really want to do is use the experience that I've gone through to help other smaller entrepreneurs who perhaps don't have the confidence or the ability to really see how these things can knit together, and just say to them, it is possible. You can come together and put together a digital solution that means that for lots of people, they can have better protection for themselves and their clients, and they can make their business lives simpler, easier, and as a bonus, they can save some money along the way.
Wow,
Perfect.
Amazing. The great news is for our listeners, and some of the solutions that we've mentioned today will be making separate reviews like Infomaniak products, like Proton password and sovereign password solutions as well, and many, many others. So stay with us. This is Beyond Big Tech, a founder's journey to digital sovereignty, not just for organizations and governments, but for small businesses, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs who want to take the business to the next level with secure data, in an optimized way, and also with big why. Thank you so much, Tracy. It's been an extreme pleasure to have you on our podcast, and I'm sure we'll be getting back to you. And we're looking forward to the article as well. So thank you so much, Tom. Thank you as well. Always have fun doing this podcast with you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.